The reason this is important is not because it affects sea level. As you know, the North Polar ice cap is a floating ice cap. Its mass has already been displaced. So when it melts, it does not change sea level, unlike Greenland and Antarctica. But what it does do is reflect 90% of the incoming solar energy as if it were a giant mirror. And as it disappears, the Arctic Ocean begins to absorb enormous quantities of heat. And that causes a series of dramatic changes. I just want to talk about two of them. Not the polar bears. We've heard plenty about them. They are an early indicator. But I want to focus your attention on the frozen ground around the Arctic Ocean. It contains a lot of carbon. The current amount in the atmosphere of CO2 is roughly 730 gigatons or trillion tons. But in that frozen soil around the Arctic, there is roughly an equal quantity. If it thaws and is allowed to release the methane into the atmosphere, then the amount in the atmosphere doubles over a relatively short period of time. And the microbes turn the carbon into methane as it thaws, and methane is even more powerful than CO2, but over 12 to 15 years it breaks down into CO2, so it's very similar. Now here are two short images from the University of Fairbanks in Alaska. Dr. Katie Wheeler went out to a shallow lake in Alaska and documented methane bubbling up from the bottom of this lake. And indeed, the scientific community worldwide is very concerned about the amount of methane increases that appear to be already starting there. Dr. Wheeler and her team went out last winter to another site. She's okay. The question is, are we? When the heat builds up in the Arctic Ocean, it puts pressure on Greenland. And Greenland has land-based ice, which, if it melted, has the potential to raise sea level worldwide by 20 feet. The melting pattern for the seasonal ice the seasonal melting pattern in Greenland has steadily increased, and it is now accelerating. This famous picture from the University of Manchester, you see the scientists at the top show one of the new larger moulins, as they call them, draining water down through the ice pack. Now, when sea level increases, it erodes coastlines and threatens to displace people who live in low-lying areas. That's why this home in Alaska fell into the sea, and why this home in Canada fell into the sea. The nation of the Maldives has just put a new budget item in its budget to relocate the entire country. They're searching to buy territory to move 100% of their population. You mentioned the issue of climate refugees, Mr. Chairman. The scientists indicate that for each 1 meter of sea level rise, there are roughly 100 million climate refugees. This committee, with its distinguished tradition and expertise, knows full well the destabilizing and tragic impacts of very large flows of refugees.